All right. So today we're going to talk about parallelized vibe coding using the Claude Code, Conductor build, and also some other tools such as Cursor and v0.app. So today's presentation is meant for technical and non-technical people alike. And I purposefully picked a topic of development that I have no experience in, which is Web 2 development, to showcase these steps and how really I am out of my depth in this field, but still how I progress with it. First of all, for those unfamiliar, what is vibe coding? So let's take a look at some differences between trad programming and vibe coding. So we know in vibe coding, we do not create the code line by line. We generate it using AI, using some AI tools. We typically think of ourselves as an implementer, a debugger, a like worker bee in like trad programming, whereas with vibe coding, we are prompting, guiding, testing, refining, trimming, etc. Trad programming requires a lot of expertise just to start writing in a language, to know the syntax, while vibe coding allows you to even use languages and frameworks and tools that you don't understand at all. Development speed for trad programming is potentially faster. We're going to talk about how to optimize for that. And then code reliability. Traditional code that is reviewed, is iterated on, etc., is considered to be safer, or at least in our contemporary time, that's sort of like the standard for safety. Now vibe coding is sort of this paradigm of like, how do we manage developing so much and maintaining like non-slop code bases, which is something we'll go on in this lecture. So this video over here is of my bedroom in around 2022 or 21, when ChatGPT just started coming out, or like when they finally had like an API version of it that was running well. And I tried to parallelize using like many different agents at once to like develop stuff. And I sort of realized that having multiple agents takes you from playing like a turn-based game like poker to what we call like a real-time strategy game, or just like imagine The Sims, right? Where you have all these different Sims and they're all doing things, and you can go to each one and like tell it what to do, and then it will sort of go off and it will do this thing, and you're kind of blipping between them while they're autonomously doing things. Or for more hardcore gamers in here, like StarCraft or Factorio, these games where you have like hundreds of units all doing things, and you go down to the individual unit and give it a specific task, or specify it in some way, specialize in some way, but you usually are controlling tens or more of them at once. And I think that on the left is also a video from 2022, 21, where I had generated a lot of different code bases, and was trying to visualize this and get a sense of like how I can progress the development of these things. And I sort of got obsessed with viewing it as a graph, and really as like growing a tree. So graphs are like these data structures here. You have like nodes and edges between them, or vertices and edges between them. And we can sort of think about how we would start with a project here, and then as we're growing out the different features of the project, new nodes are added and they're sort of growing, and the AI is making them autonomously grow. Now, while we're still not at the stage where we can have like a UI like this, where you can just see everything growing in every direction at once and click into exactly what the agent is doing there. But the metaphor is very useful, because basically what we want to do Oh, and also software development can very easily be modeled into a graph structure and into this idea of I'm growing different like branches of a tree. It just looks more like this rather than like this, but there is a representation for this, which is more similar to a tree. And we really want to frame vibe coding as growing a tree, as gardening. So we have like planting, which should be done by iterating on a spec manually, breaking down the scope, breaking down the features, using AI to generate details for those features in a very specific way, really preparing the soil essentially before launching off. After launching off, we have trimming, which is like, chopping off certain branches and certain features that shouldn't be there, or hallucinations, or are in over engineering where like the AI is trying to like grow something really, really intensely, but like you actually only need like 10% of it. Grafting, which is basically like you for anybody unaware in like gardening, grafting is cutting a branch from one tree or one plant and then implanting it to another. And so we can think of grafting as I have all these different branches of like my app growing in different directions for different features. And I want to sort of cut out and implant this feature into the larger tree without causing any troubles. But I want to be able to also have a lot of these things happening in the background, preparing for me to graft them into the tree that I'm growing. And then pruning is like sort of when you're growing a plant, you might want to develop it in a certain way. You might want it to have like a nice form. So you can think of like bonsai trees, right? So you are like snipping the branches in ways that allow the tree to grow in time, into the right shape that you want it to be, in the right direction, and things that you don't want to grow out won't grow out. Any questions so far on this in the parallel that we're going to be working on for this slide? Paralyzed sounds like paralyzed. That's funny. Okay, so for today's presentation, I have some recorded footage of me like developing this app, Data Propagate. The idea is that it's an app where you can either swipe up to swap plants with somebody. They have like different plants on their profile. So you can swap plants or propagate plants from each other, matching service, or you can swipe romantically. The idea is that everybody sort of is swiping on everybody, and then you're either matching based on like a plant swap or the profile. And I encourage you to scan this and run it on your phone, on your device, try to make a profile, see if it's functional or not. And you can give me feedback on this app. So when we're growing our app, we have these 4 steps. First, we plant. So we fill out a spec and review. Second, we trim. We remove bugs, bad features, hallucinations. 3, we propagate. We start opening many different issues to be parallelized and to start working on the app. And 5, we expand or reduce scope for the app. This is done after we have a very base functional thing. And we're going to take a look at how we do all these things. So first of all, for planting, we're going to take a look at a video of me planting and trimming. So I have on the left-hand side over here, one second. Okay, so you should be able to see this video. And I'm playing it at 60x speed. So at the left-hand side, we have me working on a spec. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to take it down to 30x speed, actually. On the left-hand side, I'm actually working on a spec. I have this prompt. All prompts in the slideshow will be in a Google Doc. And I'm actually iterating on this spec. I'm like looking at what it says. I'm looking at diagrams that it's making. I'm actually reviewing what it's doing. And on the right-hand side, we have two versions of the app that I just gave the initial prompt to, pre-spec. And I have one Claude Code instance and one v0.app instance trying to build this system. And as we're going to see in about 3 seconds, the spec on the left-hand side is done. And we are already starting to see the post-spec implementation. And on the right-hand side, we have the Claude Code version and the v0.app version that are sort of without a spec. So we can see that the Claude Code one is sort of working, but it like has no design, it has no UI, and it actually doesn't have a database, and it doesn't have any of the features. It's not really a usable app. Let's take a look over here. Yeah, so we can see that while there's a match, there's no like profile. I didn't create my profile. There's no messaging. There's no, all these like different features that we actually need for this app are kind of not done. And I wrote there that Claude didn't do that. And then for the v0 version, we can see that while it does have more buttons, actually nothing is functional. None of the features are functional. And if we look on the left-hand side, I'm trying to save the Claude thing a bit more, but it's not really working. And at some point, I just kind of give up on it. But on the left-hand side, what we'll see is that this app is being deployed. And not is it only deployed, but I logged into it with my email. It set up a database according to the spec. And I'm able to log in and see my user profile with my real email and the object like stored in the database. And we can sort of see over here that I'm configuring a Supabase database, but I don't actually know anything about Web2. I don't know anything about databases, I assure you. Like, I literally have no idea what all of these steps are, but I just went to v0, I added a database integration when it prompted me to initially, and then it gave me steps in the chat on what I should do in order to configure the database. And I just followed those steps one by one, and the database was configured properly. And we can see it being deployed, and we can even see over here that I add a 48. 46. We can see here that I'm adding in a I add a plant that I want to swap into the interface. So I'm filling out the details for the plant. I'm getting a plant URL image here, and I'm inputting it, adding the plant. Now I'm reloading the page, and the plant appears. And on consequent logins, it continues to appear. So if we'll want to look at some tips and tricks to understand what I was doing there more in detail, one, I have a template for technical spec, and I have multiple templates, but for a dedicated full app, I would use a more abstract template. If you have already an existing code base, I have a more intense, in-depth template that is useful. For this one, I use like an abstract one. Mermaid diagrams, if you saw, I wasn't reviewing the whole spec at once. I was using a editor to view the diagrams that it spit out, because then I'm able to, at a glance, have an understanding of what it's suggesting, and it saves review time for me to do. I remove a lot of features. A lot of this in the planting stage, you're actually just trying to get it to do the minimal, simplest things. So a lot of things that it added there were just not useful, so I just removed them. And if you're a designer, you can start with a Figma. You can do the spec like I did through ChatGPT, just iterating on it. And then at the same time, use Figma to make a Figma design. And you can start the chat with V0 with the Figma design and the spec at the same time. So it already has the design fully figured out. And you just have the spec for the features themselves. Now, while I was trimming there, basically I was in V0, looking at all the features, clicking the buttons, trying to create a feature, trying to log in. It took some time. I had to paste some error logs from what I was doing back into the AI. I had to tell it to print debug logs for me so that it could see what it was getting wrong. Sometimes I had to roll back to an earlier version. Don't be afraid to do these things. Be very patient with it, and assume that it's over engineering. Ask it to give you diagrams when it's getting errors and you're not managing to give the right prompt to fix it. But genuinely, all that I was doing had nothing to do with my technical understanding, because I do not have a technical understanding of how to do databases in Web 2 at all. And yet, just by following these sort of steps, I was able to get it to a working state with a database. Some tips and tricks for trimming. Yeah, work on it until it's at a working state before moving on to any other steps, such as pruning or grafting. You can do copywriting changes in batch, but try to give it small scopes for each prompt as much as you can. If the AI is looping, it's just like looping on the same error. Be like, I have a prompt for this in the doc. Like, hey, drop everything, refactor this feature completely. Nothing that you're doing is working. Take a radical new approach. And a lot of times it will get it to get it correctly. Anything that seems like it's over engineering or it's like too much, get rid of it. And yeah, ask it to add debugging logging to loop back into itself if you don't understand what the error is. Okay, now we're going to take a look at propagation and
Ron, can I have a question?
Yes.
Before we switch off that?
Yeah.
I'm a bit unclear on exactly what the takeaway is from this section. Were you showing a process that involves working with Claude and VO simultaneously, or are you demonstrating how one kind of compares to the other?
I gave on the left-hand side, I was working on a spec, and then I gave it to V0. And on the right-hand side, I gave the initial prompt for the spec to both V0 and Claude, and I had them make it without a spec. And I was just showing that the left-hand side actually had a database, all the buttons were clickable, I was able to create a user and log in, the features were working properly, it didn't have any dead links. But on the right-hand side, the Claude version, the component for swiping wasn't working. There was none of the features that I really need for the app. It was just like, it just throws you straight into a swiper thing that barely works. And the V0 version had like 20 dead links and none of the functionality. So I was just trying to show that if you do make a spec and you put in the time to iterate on it, the results are so much better. Like, it doesn't really matter which tool you're using. If you have a spec and then you throw it into something, it will actually manage to hit like a working MVP, where if you don't, it's just going to flounder.
And something you're providing later are templates of what you mean by tech spec here.
Yeah, they are. You can scan this link, and there's all the prompts that I used in the video.
Okay, can we have this just for like 15 seconds? The QR code?
It's going to be on at the end of the slide as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Great questions. Anybody have any other questions? Feel free to type in the chat as well. All right, so here we're going to be taking a look. So now on the left-hand side, I've got the V0 version, and I want to start using Conductor. So the first thing I do is I make a GitHub repo for this project, and that's going to enable Conductor to just import the whole code base into itself. Something Conductor does that we're going to see here in the UI in a second is it lets me open this little work tree over here. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse over there, but I can actually open as many of these as I want and have a version of Claude Code working on whatever I tell it to in isolation on the same code base. So this is what allows me to really do grafting properly by enabling the parallelization of multiple issues. But the first thing I do is I actually have it make a bunch of specs for me. And again, I'm reviewing the specs by reviewing the diagrams rather than reading everything, because I just right away, I can tell that it's over engineering, and I can tell it to reduce things and quick fixes just by the diagrams themselves. And I'm also telling it immediately to make me GitHub issues after I've like applied all the notes. I'm telling it to make me GitHub issues for all of the different features that I told it to suggest to add to the app. And additionally, I have it make this Git graph element. So now it's auto-created a bunch of issues, a bunch of different features. And I've told it, and this prompt is also in the prompts page, I've told it to make me a Git made mermaid Git graph, which outlines the dependencies of all the issues that I've opened on each other and tells me which ones I can parallelize without introducing a merge conflict. So for non-technical people, why do I need this? Why do I need this ordering thing? Why can't I just have them all develop and then join in at once? So it's sort of like if I added, if I grafted onto a bonsai tree another branch, and then I immediately wanted to graft another branch onto that one, and onto that one, and onto that one. And without knowing how the initial branch that I grafted into the tree is going to grow, it may grow in a direction that influences some other branch that I grafted. And now they're going to start like growing into each other. And then I'm going to have to go in and like, I'm going to have to prune, I'm going to trim them, and I'm going to have to regraft them in another direction. And if I don't do that process again smartly, they're just going to conflict with other branches that I've been grafting as well. So what I'm doing essentially is like I'm taking my bonsai tree and I'm choosing, I'm seeing, okay, I can graft a branch in this direction that is completely opposite from this other direction. And okay, I have now 3 different things I've grafted that are growing in completely separate directions. They're not going to bump into each other. And I need to do this in batches. So I can, now I know, okay, I've added 3 branches. If I had 4, the 4th one, they're going to start bumping into each other. Like at least one of them is going to bump into each other. So I need to sort of wait with this one until the first 3 have grown. And this prompt essentially does all that thinking for you. It will go look at all the issues, understand where all these, the direction of all these branches are going in, and they will essentially make sure that the development is happening in isolated files. So the files that the AI is generating in this step over here, none of these changes will conflict with each other. They're going to be exclusionary to each other. So they're going to be on completely isolated separate files, so that when I want to merge them into main, I'm not going to have any conflicts with, they're not going to have any conflicts with each other. So in the allegory, this basically ensures that the branches that I'm grafting are not growing into each other. They're not going to bother each other. They have separate space. Any questions on this? Okay, so now we can see what I'm doing now is basically I already have like 14 issues open on GitHub. And now I have a good 7 PRs running at the same time. And I'm working on the app in V0 as well. So they're both synced up through GitHub. What I'm doing here is by having automated testing and CI/CD, I'm saving not only the time by like clicking off each one of these the second that they're done. I'm not only saving the time of like generating the code, but I'm also saving the time of testing the code, because I don't have to manually wait for the code to generate and then for the test to run. But I can just tab between each one when it's ready, and review the PRs while the code is generating and the tests are running. That's what sort of allows me to reach peak efficiency there. Okay, any questions on that? Nope. Okay. Can I go over the prompt that makes the issues? Yes, I can. Okay. It's all going to be at the end of the last slide. You're going to have a QR code that you can reference to this. But the issue prompt is this: open an issue, include an introduction, problem statement, murder rate sequence, and class diagrams and code snippets. This is the prompt that I use to make the abstract abstract technical spec. This is a more in-depth technical spec template, and this is a prompt to get the AI out of auto looping. Okay, so just to recap, propagating means loading the repo into Conductor.build, generating features and fixes for the current scope, review those features and fixes, create the parallelization strategy using the, I think I'm missing that one from the document, but I will add it for how to do the parallelization more efficiently and prevent merge conflicts. Parallelize, review, and merge. So have interact with Claude in Conductor.build. That's all Conductor.build does. It just opens many different Claude Code instances for you, and syncs everything up very nicely in a UI. And then you can also leverage Copilot for code review. It's kind of better at Claude than doing that because it's like very much built for line by line review. And if you get errors in CI/CD for the automatic testing and the automatic deployments, you can just loop those right back into the agents. And for the non-technical people, just your strategy should always be, let me run this thing, let me see the logs and the errors, and then just feed them right back into the agent. For pruning, we want to be very careful and resolve merges ahead of time and like plan ahead of time to both the features that we're adding and the order of them to our purposes. So it's good to write down things that it says just many times. It will like suggest something that you're only going to want to do in like 2 months or in a month or something, or it's not really necessary for your current objectives in development. Refactor any issues that it like suggests you, where it's like, oh, use this provider for something, or find a library. Just tell it to refactor it and to find you an actual library. And if needed, find the library by Googling and then give it the documentation, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's gonna be it for me. This was a speedy walk. So I might go over some more select bits in the videos, but I'm opening it up for questions. Yeah, so let's take a look at that repo to answer Aaron's question. So here we're inside the repo itself. So when I opened all these issues, I gave it the initial spec that I gave v0.app. So I included it in the context. And I asked it to review whether all of the features were implemented correctly, whether any features are missing, what needs to be added in order to progress this to both an MVP stage and a production stage. So for example, it looked at the code base and the spec, and one of the things it determined was that there's no proper pagination system for receiving a lot of users if the system scales. And so it made this spec here with these this user flow. So it knows that once the discovery feed is open, there needs to be like a cached feed. And then if there's a cache miss, we need to generate it and also store it in the cache. And all these like complicated programming things that I have no fucking clue about. But it's able to create a PR for this automatically from the task description. And then this would be where I would review it and test it out and so on and so forth. It actually already did like deploy it. So there is a version with a preview that I can go and test out and see if the feed feature is working properly. This is sort of the process. Before this issue was released to GitHub, I reviewed it to make sure that it like makes sense. So again, overarching tech spec, and then using the issue, like asking it to open issues using the issue prompt. You really give it the prompt like, for each one of these things that you determine, open an issue and then put in the issue prompt. And it will do so. And all of these issues were opened by using the GitHub CLI. And I just tell it to open the issues using the GitHub CLI. Does that answer your question, Aaron? Do I have a prompt for a new work tree? No, so Conductor.build, it will open the new work tree for it when you just click plus there on the display. And you can set it up so that, 1 second. Let's take a look at. Cannot find Conductor, 1 second. So when you're in the data propagate workspace, you can just make a new work tree just like that. And then it opens up this window here, and you can talk to Claude over here. And then any changes it'll make to the code base, you can review them right in here by just like clicking over them. You can also, if you're non-technical, you can also ask it to just like summarize for you what are the changes that it did. Any tips for minimizing token amount for prompts so that prompts cost less? You just have to experiment with it. I would definitely say like, check in on what they're doing, make sure that they're not just like running in circles. I think minimizing token context, like basically if you tell it like in the issue prompt that I tell it like 5 different sections, it will usually give me like a paragraph or two, especially some of these sections are diagrams, so it's not even a paragraph, but it's not going to overshoot the length for each section. I haven't seen it do that if you actually give it like the 5 sections it's supposed to fill out ahead of time.
I got a question. When do you decide to implement the strategy, right? Like if you have some new development tasks, when do you say like, you know what, let me just do this manually, or let me go through the trouble and use this? Like what's your thinking in that regard?
First of all, definitely if you're doing something new, something novel, that's definitely a place to seriously consider whether you should be trying to vibe this or not. The more non-trivial it is or new it is, that is where I'm inclined more to step in. And also just to give a quick thing here, Conductor.build actually supports opening up cursor right from the window over here using this open button. You use cursor, VS Code, your terminal, etc. And then it'll just open up a cursor window for you to do manual edits with if you need. And you can also run Claude inside of that cursor context. There's like a Claude plugin for cursor, which lets Claude have the window context of essentially what cursor gives you. It lets the same way that cursor lets cursor agents know what you're looking at. The Claude cursor plugin will let Claude have the same information. So when I need to drill down, I'll open it in cursor, and then I'll like try to edit it myself. And then once I figure out, you know, oh, this is the fix, I'll be like, okay, here's the working version. Clean this up, remove my debug printing, make a PR.
So I got another follow-up question. The website that you put together that you demonstrated today, when did you start that, and how long did it take you to finish the whole?
So both recordings are together 2 hours, and I was making the slides for this as well while I was doing all that.
And this is pretty recent, right? You put this together maybe in the past week or two, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Any lessons learned from this experience that you're gonna take forward with your current development tasks?
I think this is planning the being able to sort of cover the breadth of a project horizontally after getting a very quick and dirty initial version running. That is sort of the flow for planting a project. This approach can also, you can just take any repo that you have that already has a lot of issues and just start parallelizing them and working on them and reviewing them, etc. The name of the game here is to not get, it's to really like, if you have ADHD, leverage it and just like try to spend like 30 seconds on each window. Try to catch an error or something that's out of place as quick as possible, hand it off, and then continue to the next one. Don't try to overwork each worker, and don't try to like zoom in too much. You're really going from a poker mentality of like, I'm playing my hand, I'm thinking about my hand, I'm waiting for the other players, to like a Sims strategy where it's like, okay, I'm going to this dude, I'm making him, he has a new job, I'm building a new house for this sim. I'm like, you're just kind of like zipping around. Any recommendations for non-Mac parallelization alternatives? So I've been trying to look into this. I believe that what you need is a Git worktrees client with GitHub integration. I'm sure that like this can be hacked together on Emacs or like Vim or like all these like, you know, super elite hacker like extension playgrounds. But essentially, if you have Git worktrees UI and a GitHub integration and terminal splitting, that is what you would need to have like a good alternative to Contributor.build. Any tips for minimizing token? And I'm sharing the prompt doc also in the chat, and the link for the date or propagate app if you want to make a profile. And do put in on, oh wait, no, that's the wrong link. I cannot delete that. 1 second. And only put in an email that you're comfortable being publicly available. This is the second link is the link for the app. So let's sign out, sign in. Let's check out my profile. Okay, in the user demo that I recorded, you can see that it's working. I did, let me share that, but I did make some more changes since then, so it might not be working now. Okay, if there are no further questions, I think I'm gonna end it here. Thank you all for coming.
It was wonderful. We love you. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. I feel like I have ADHD already. Must be working.
Woo! New hyper focus thing.